Hello, and welcome to the 25th Hour, a current affairs show produced by Carleton University's School of Journalism. I'm Noah Richardson, and this week we'll be shining a light on some of Ottawa's untold stories.
And I'm Bailey Pegden. Today's show focuses on bringing people together and how community is created, whether it's through a new brewery in Centertown, a group of dedicated superheroes, or connecting people to the foods of their ancestors.
Hi, I'm Kaylin Wibbs. Those are just a few of the stories you'll see today. We hope you enjoy them. Our first story takes us to Orto Trattoria in the heart of the Glebe. The winner of Top Chef Canada runs the kitchen at Orto. Rene Rodriguez says his recipe for the future includes mentoring younger chefs and putting Ottawa's thriving culinary scene on the map.
My name is Chef Rene Rodriguez, and I'm the chef at Orto Trattoria in the Glebe. And I've been here for about 6 weeks. Before that, I was the chef and owner of a Spanish restaurant called Navarra in the market. And I've been cooking in Ottawa for 21 years. Yeah. When I was 18, I couldn't speak a word of English, when I came to Canada, and all I could do was be a dishwasher. So I did that for a full year. I saved enough money to go to cooking school and to learn English at the same time. And I decided to take cooking serious, in a sense where, this is how much I love food. I'm going to devote a lot of time. And there will be times where I buy a cookbook once a week and read the entire cookbook once a week. Ottawa has played an important role in my career as a chef. Because I always had that support of the people that want to eat the food that I create, and they always respond really, really well when it comes to the food that I make for them. So Navarra, I had it for 9 years. It was a Spanish restaurant, tapas, and I love Spanish cuisine because I can connect to that food because I was raised in Mexico. I think I decided to leave my restaurant simply because it was time to let go. I already achieved many things with Navarra, and it was time for me to open a new chapter when it came to food. And I love the idea of being a chef, but I never wanted to be an owner at the same time because it's very, very dramatic and very stressful. And it took me away from cooking. Having my own restaurant definitely helped for me to submit my application for Top Chef Canada, because I was able to send my application, and they realized that I had my own restaurant for 5 years at that time, and they also realized that I was cooking really great food, and Navarra became an extension of who I was as a chef, and it was a reflection of my passion. So when I had the opportunity to do Top Chef, I said, I'm going to do this for me, and I'm going to do it for my family, but I also want to do it for the city, simply because Ottawa deserves to be in that map when it comes to food, right? And after winning the competition, I think people across the country realized that there's some good talent in this city. And now all of a sudden, Ottawa became that city in a sense where, a local chef won Top Chef Canada, and there's got to be more chefs like him. So let's put Ottawa in the map a little bit more. And I'm working with young chefs that are very passionate and individuals that love food. And for me, that's great because I could see that passion and I can relate to that. And it becomes very easy, when you work with passionate individuals. My right-hand man in the kitchen at Orto is Rasmon, and he's been working with me for 6 years. He was my sous chef at Navarra for 5 years. And I know him for about 7 years, and he's incredibly talented, very passionate, and he's like a sponge. He absorbs a lot of information, and then he develops it, and then he's a very technical individual when it comes to food. He knows how to assemble food, and he understands food really well, which I love. Yeah.
I started working with Rene about 6 years ago. I worked at Oz Cafe previously, and I had a great opportunity to push and learn a little bit. Rene is one of the greater chefs, so I hopped on that chance. Basically, I was a painter and artist, and I kind of started relating that to food a little bit, plating and colors and vibrancy. So I'd like to think that Rene and I push each other to grow together.
I think you have to be able to give it back to the community and help other chefs develop their technique and their career. I think it's important that you awaken their senses when it comes to food and see what do they love to eat and how do they like to cook. And you can use that as a tool to help them bring the best of them as chefs, right? So I'm always going to be involved with helping other people to cook because I had my chance and I took advantage of that and I was able to become a chef. Now I think there's people out there that want to do what I did and I got to help them and inspire them actually. Yeah.
Wow, is it lunchtime yet? I could go for some of that pasta right about now.
Not quite, Noah. It's really cool to see that Rodriguez can build on his Mexican roots to make the switch to Italian cuisine for this new restaurant. Now that's talent.
I agree, and it's also interesting to see new places opening, especially in that part of Ottawa. But it isn't just new restaurants that are bringing the community together. Dave Longbottom is a longtime businessman who decided to take his passion for craft beer and open a new brewery that he wants to forge into a central meeting spot in Centertown.
The 25th Hour stopped by to see what Flora Hall Brewing is all about.
The only way to truly communicate is to get together, sit down, face to face, have a beer, have a drink, have some food together, and truly interact. It's heartwarming to see people, talking across the table and not just texting and checking Facebook.
All right, that is the sour, okay, and this is the Mordo.
They're having conversations. They're using the space the way I only dreamed that they would, which is to get together with their friends and talk. My name is Dave Longbottom. I am the founder and president of Flora Hall Brewing. Although we are certainly foremost a brewery, for me it's more about getting the people together. So what we're trying to create here with Flora Hall is a true gathering spot, almost a community center in Centertown. So why Centertown? A lot of it was driven by this building that we're sitting in. It's a fabulous heritage structure that I found when I started to think about doing this business. I looked around the city. I'm from Ottawa. I know the city extremely well. This is the heart of Ottawa, as far as I'm concerned. It's the most urban neighborhood in the city. It's an awesome neighborhood. I love it. Urban neighborhoods just have more life. I've lived in the Glebe. I've lived in Old Ottawa South. I'm familiar with Westboro, Hintonburg, and so forth. Centertown just has something that those neighborhoods will never have. It's got this natural kind of rough edge to it. I'm really happy to be here, frankly. What craft beer looks like is really just a reflection of what's happening in almost every other aspect of our lives, and that is a retreat to locally produced, small batch produced goods and products, right? It's more appealing to people, I think, to buy things that are made by people they can meet in a facility that they can see than it is to just buy a bottle of beer from the beer store.
Hi, I'm Rod Hughes. I'm the head brewer at Flora Hall. If I was going to start at a large brewery, I'm not sure if I could really do what I'm doing here. I get to be involved in every aspect. I love serving my beer fresh. That's what I really like about this place in particular. I know that when we're serving our beer, it's at its peak, right? It's not sitting on a shelf for 6 months and tasting different than it should. Being in Centertown is awesome. We've got a lot of people that live close by in all directions. Just some really local people too. Like I think we've met, half the people on Flora Street. The biggest thing for me is that everybody's got positive things to say about this coming to the neighborhood. Cheers. Yeah, everyone's really enthusiastic, and I am as well. So it's just a great scene here. That's where my heart is. It's for the love of people I work with and for love of what we're making here, yeah. You know, like I spend just as much or more time here than I do at home, and sometimes it's hard to leave. I really love it. So yeah, I wouldn't do anything else, honestly. At this point, it's kind of what I want to do for the rest of my life.
I've had a few people come into this space and try and pay me a compliment by saying, you know, it feels like I'm not in Ottawa. That pisses me off, to be honest, because we're in Ottawa, and Ottawa's an awesome place, and there's so much here that is worth sort of celebrating and you know, is exciting. What I'm really happy about, though, is the fact that this building was derelict and empty for 15 years before I bought it, and now it's in full swing, and it's being used and enjoyed by thousands, well, so far thousands of people. It's certainly my strong belief that this place will be here when I'm dead and gone, and it's my strong desire to see that. I mean, if this is now a brewery, this is now a gathering spot in Ottawa, I don't need to sell it, I won't sell it, so it should be here for another 100 years, because that's the objective here, is to build a place that is permanent. We're very happy to be doing that in Ottawa. I wouldn't do it anywhere else, to be honest with you. Yeah.
It's nice to see yet another place where people can come together to build a sense of community.
Agreed. And if a brewery can become a place for people to sit down and truly connect, then what about the potential of a gym to provide hope to people suffering from Parkinson's disease?
Christine Seeby is on a mission to bring boxing, fitness, and physical relief to her community. The 25th Hour spoke to Seeby about how she went from teaching fitness classes in her garage to opening a gym that helps people combat their symptoms.
Day-to-day life is hard and frustrating. What would take you 5 minutes to an email, 5 minutes, it would take me 20 minutes. I was diagnosed with Parkinson's October 2014. So I was having problems tying shoes, putting my jacket on, just little things like that, but I attributed it to age. So I went, saw my family doctor, and she sent me to a specialist, and he said, yep, you've got it.
6, very good. 7, 8, nice, 2 more. 9, 10.
My name is Christine Seeby. I'm 36 years old, and I'm the founder here of Boxing for Health. I saw a broadcast on the news in the States where they had started a program for teaching boxing to people with Parkinson's, and I thought, wow, that's a really good idea. I started a program, and it grew quickly, and here we are. We're in our own gym about a year and a half later, and close to 80 students.
I came and I did because Christine offers that, you know, try one class, and if you like it, that's fine. Continue. If not, then that's fine as well. And that's all it took for me, was trying the one class. But for me, it gets you out. It gets you out. One, it gets you out socially. You've got a great cardio workout, and you're you know, an hour and a quarter of a very positive, encouraging environment. I can't imagine anybody who would not benefit from that.
Good job. Keep going. You're going to need 20 more seconds to go. 20 more seconds. 10 seconds.
The main ones would be tremor, rigidity, like I said, very tight and stiff in certain parts of the body, or even the whole body, quite frankly. Slowness of movement is a big one. Their movements get very slow and small. So we focus really on everything in the class needs to be big. Everything we have to exacerbate into really big movements to help them. It's more the intensity behind the exercise than the specific exercise itself. Boxing, however, is just flat out fun for the most of us. Putting on gloves and punching something, it's just physically and emotionally and mentally rewarding, and just feels good to let that out. But when we incorporate the different balance and strength exercises into the circuit too, it just makes it that much more challenging, but also fun.
And go!
Come on, Monica, come on, Rene! Give it to him! Give it to him! Get him on the rope!
2, 1.
All right, good one.
The psychosocial benefits are definitely what people notice first coming to these classes. Meeting the other students who share the same symptoms and the same frustrations as you is huge, to be able to just let go and relax and be able to work out at your own pace and push, hard but not too hard, because you're working with people that are dealing with the same type of symptoms that you are.
My right side is totally shot. That's why I had to have you help me put everything on. Taking lids off things or anything I need, tying shoes, anything I need, you're both hands for. I can't welch on that. So I have noticed a small improvement in my balance, because that's one thing that drives me absolutely out of my mind. Is, for all my life I've had excellent balance. Now I can be standing somewhere and I'll just all of a sudden stumble and lurch toward. I did it once in a grocery store and lurched toward some lady who I'm sure was horrified. What the hell was I doing? But so the balance is somewhat improved. But I think the main thing is the symptoms are not getting better, but I don't expect them to get better. But I think they're keeping them in a status quo. But I think that the biggest improvement is my mood. They built a very, very inclusive, encouraging, positive environment. So the minute you walk in the door, it's always good. So always having a good time, and I find the harder the circuit is, the more I laugh. It's as today was brutal, but I would never complain about it being too hard, because it does. It's really improved.
Are you guys still debating or trying to help?
It really is one of the only things that you can do to help lessen the symptoms for this disease and slow down the progression. So if I can give hope to just one person, that's amazing. But if I can continue to give it to more and more people, because unfortunately this disease is just, the numbers are getting higher, then if we can help improve quality of life, a new person, every day or every week, then at the end of the day, I feel like I've done my job. Oh, I think it's fulfilling a passion that I initially didn't know I had. I was working with clients as a therapist one-on-one, and it was rewarding. But when I started doing this, it just felt right. It felt like I had something missing, and this was it. So I knew right from the beginning, right from working this program in my garage, that something big was going to come out of it if I just kind of stuck to my guns. And that's really what happened, and it's been amazing. Like the students are family to us. We come in and it's hardly work at the end of the day. Like, we leave with smiles on our faces just like they do, and they tell us how much it's given them hope back into their life, and we respond by saying the same thing. Like, it's really given us hope. It gives us hope every day to make the program that much better and try and get to as many people as we can.
I'm a lot better off than a lot of people. It's just tend to forget about everyone else and think about yourself, but I still have to remember I'm in better condition than a lot of other people. So I should count my lucky stars, but sometimes it's hard to count them.
We hope you're enjoying the show so far. There's much more to come. But first, we thought we would introduce you to some of our cast and crew who work hard behind the scenes to produce our show. We asked the 25th Hour's Sarah Togman to get to know our team a little better. Let's check that out.
Since our show is called The 25th Hour, we thought we'd take you behind the scenes to meet some of our cast and crew and ask them what they do with an extra hour in their day. Hey Lauren, if you had an extra hour in your day, what would you do?
I'd probably do jazzercise for the first 45 minutes, and then the last 15 I would just need them to cool down.
Hey Bailey, what would you do?
I think I'd probably spend a bit more personal time on myself just because I don't get a lot of time to myself, so I might read a book.
Hey Jillian, what would you do with the 25th hour in your day?
I would go up to the Gatineau Hills and take a hike and find a really nice, scenic spot and just look at the view.
Nick, what would you do with an extra hour in your day?
I've recently taken up soap carving, so I'd probably spend my entire hour doing that.
Hey, Anchor Mona, what would you do for the 25th hour?
I think I would go to the Ottawa Humane Society and play with the puppies, and then I would call my mom more often.
Hey, Marina, what would you do with an extra hour in your day?
If I had an extra hour, I think I'd probably make some Christmas cookies. I'm feeling the holiday vibe, and they're to feed me both physically and emotionally.
Hey, Greer, what would you do with an extra hour?
I would sit in a room with lots of windows and a cup of tea and absorb an extra hour of sunlight.
Thanks, Greer. So now that you've met some of our cast and crew, we'll send you back to the studio to see the rest of the show. Thanks for watching.
Man, I wish I had a 25th hour. If I did, I'd probably do the same thing as you, Bailey. I would sit in one of my favorite coffee shops reading a good book.
Yeah, either that or maybe I'd write my own book so I could publish it someday.
If you've ever tried to open a new business and take care of it day after day, you may have felt like there were never enough hours.
Ottawa has everything from high-tech giants to small mom and pop shops. As big box stores and large chains move into the Glebe and neighboring areas, what does it mean for the community of smaller business owners and operators? The 25th hour checks out this story.
My name is Clyde Ross, and I'm the owner of Felina's Restaurant. When we first opened in 1979, Mexicali Roses, our restaurant seats 60. We were doing over 300 people a day going through it one year back in the early 80s. And that'll never happen again.
My name is Susan Jessup. I'm referred to as the mad scientist, basically product development, technical advisor, some management, obviously. The Wild Oat is a significant business in the city. It doesn't mean that it doesn't, it's not vulnerable to economic challenges. It is, like any other business. But the business owners have really acquired and maintained a level of loyalty with the people they hire and with the people that support the business coming in and being really reliant on what the Wild Oat produces.
I think some of the businesses in the Glebe are somewhat cut off from what's going on at Lansdowne, and it might hurt them. They're competing directly with either restaurants there or businesses. It's really tough out there for retail and restaurants now. We're not feeling that threatened by what's happening here. We're a little surprised at some of the businesses that are opening. A McDonald's in the Glebe, I don't know, Boston Pizza.
I walk by McDonald's and you see kids sitting at Mickey D's, and I think to myself, I know that didn't cost nothing. That cost something. That's expensive food, really, for what it is. There's been commercial growth, more businesses coming in, and some of it I think is good. It adds texture and flavor. In fact, a lot of it is. And then there's some other businesses which I feel take us to a place that's out of community business or neighborhood type businesses and more into something that you would more expect to find in the suburbs or in a more industrialized area, food industrialized area.
I never like to see anybody anywhere fail, and especially in the Glebe.
I believe there's one business that will be closing soon. I don't want to mention any names. And another one is very much at risk. And that's sad because they've been here for a time too, and they were an important part of the community.
Hey, welcome to Felina's.
what we have to offer is basically something for everyone. And we're very family friendly. We do have 95 years experience in the kitchen, not one person, 3. 2 of them are 35 years and one's 25. I don't think too many restaurants can say that. The more you eat it, the more you want. We have very good margaritas, my recipe. One thing about Mexican food that's very important, it sets it apart from a lot of food, is that it's the sauces. That's why when people come in here and they say, I want this without the sauce, I say no. And they say, what do you mean? I can't order what I want? Not in my restaurant. If I don't think it's going to be good, I'm not going to serve it. So then I talk them into trying the sauce.
Welcome to the Wild Earth.
We provide, like I said, unique product and services for people with allergies or food intolerances. It's also a very high quality, very often organic, typically sustainable. We try to support local as much as possible. I guess I would want an ever-increasing awareness of the importance of supporting local. I feel like if people really had an appreciation and an acute awareness, then they might continue to support the Wild Oat enthusiastically, and also the other businesses that are working so hard to do the same thing in the community.
Although it's sad thinking about some of these smaller businesses having to close, there's still a sense of perseverance and hope that there's a place for everyone in Ottawa. Ability First is an organization that's also fueled by hope and determination. It strives to help people with disabilities reach their goals through support and mentorship. The 25th Hour spoke to Ability First about how they're helping a 17-year-old boy publish his sci-fi novel series.
It's 2 aliens that want to make the world better, and then they overcome problems, and it results that they find Earth at one point through a dimension, and after that it happens that it blows up, and they try to fight another enemy that overcomes their powers, and it makes more problems. I wanted to write a book with my brother, and we just didn't know how we're going to publish it, you know. And then I met Ability First, and I was like, oh, do you guys publish books? And they're like, yeah, we do.
So actually the book is in editing, and they should be published soon. And that's because of Ability First.
After we edit the book, we're going to try to get it published and make funds so that he can print more books and be financially independent. So we're really excited.
Unfortunately, his birth mother took drug and alcohol, so we adopted him. And the drug and alcohol had impact on his brain. So he has 6 out of the 9 areas of the brain that are affected.
It wasn't that difficult for me, it was more difficult for the people around me. But there are people who help with that, and yeah, who just help you along the way.
The thing is, he has one of his difficulty is the attachment disorder. So at the beginning, it was kind of, if you touch him, if you burn him. So we were needing to take him in our hand to help him because he was baby, but it was hurting him at the same moment. So it was to develop some technique of taking him with a blanket and things like that to kind of have him building the confidence that we don't hurt him. So it took a couple years to develop, but now sometimes we can sit and have a wonderful discussion, and that's amazing. Can you imagine being 17 years old, passing all your teenage age without any friends? That's mean inviting people for your birthday and nobody shows up. It's kind of terrible. It's not normal. So with Ability First, he makes some friends and they are happy to see him and he's happy to see them, and just that, it's gold.
Sadly, persons with disabilities, we tend to have low self-esteem, and that's the biggest barrier. Without self-esteem, you can't go any farther.
They can keep it motivated. They are doing the editing, they will take care of the printing, they will take care of all of that, so it's making a huge difference. He is so creative. Every day he finds a new tips or a new trick, that's something new that he can build, and his drawing are exceptional. He is like an 8 years old in a body of a 17 years old, so that's not easy for him to understand all the change and everything that's going on. Okay. So, but what is awesome is he continues to evaluate. So, for example, he started making maybe hugs only 2 to 3 years ago to say goodnight before bedtime, you know. But now he's hugging all the time, and so he made progress, and he continued to make progress.
People should help others, even though they don't feel like helping them. Even if they have problems, like even though it's not your problem, be a part of it. Help them overcome it. Because if they have a problem and you don't have a problem, and everyone's related. Everyone's all mixed up together. So if someone has a problem, another person will have a problem. And it just keeps going. So if you just take away all those problems and you all solve them, then there will be no one with problems and everyone will be happy. Same thing with a smile. So if you smile, another person's gonna smile, and then another person's gonna smile, and it keeps on going.
That's a score.
It is so heartwarming to see Tito get support so that he can share his talents with the world.
Speaking of support, Joe Corrali is an injured naval officer who now works with an organization called Soldier On, which allows him to still serve his country while also supporting his fellow military members.
Let's check out Corrali's call to duty and the journey he has taken as a member of Canada's Armed Forces and beyond.
Motorcycling has always been a passion of mine since I was a boy. My childhood friends actually look at me now and they say, I can't believe you grew up into this kind of conformist military person because you were such a, for lack of better terms, shit disturber as a kid. So after high school, I went to university. I had it in my mind that I was going to be a geneticist too, somewhere in there. So I did half of a biology degree, and then I decided to run away and join the Navy. So. I kind of had this romantic idea of the Navy of, you know, swashbuckling and rum and exotic lands. So I said, yeah, sure, that sounds like a great way to spend a few years, and here I am 19 years later. This is the mission that I was actually hurt on, Op Altair on the HMCS Calgary. This was a Canadian-led task force in the Middle East. We were looking for terrorists coming out of Afghanistan. We were looking for drugs at sea. We were looking for pirates off of Somalia. So a very high-tempo deployment. And I fell down a few steps on a ladder and I hurt my spine. So I just basically blew out a couple of discs in my lower back and in my cervical spine. I was always kind of on the fast track in my career, so I didn't want to ever let anything slow me down. I wasn't prepared to accept that I couldn't give as much as I wanted to give. I was in so much pain and I still hadn't accepted that I needed help because I didn't want my career to end. For me, suicide became a real option, and I don't know how that happened. I still don't know how that even entered my brain, but it scared me to the point where I actually came very close to jumping off the ship. I said something has to change. By just a happy coincidence, an opportunity came up for me to actually leave my life in Victoria, get a new change in Ottawa with Soldier On. So it's a really rewarding program, and we'll support rehabilitation through sport. We work in any type of sport you can almost imagine. So we brought in 10 or 11 folks from across the country this past week in Toronto, and they got world-class lessons and equestrian camp. We've helped close to 4,000 individuals in 10 years. Our recipe is simple. We just want to introduce folks to an active lifestyle and help an injured or ill person realize that their life isn't over after injury. I didn't have a lot of confidence in myself at that point. Yeah, friends kind of pushed me to take the new challenge, and I did. It wasn't easy though to kind of move out of your comfort zone, and especially at that time in my life, I wasn't feeling very strong. 3 months on the job, 4 months on the job, I knew that this was not just a check in the box. I was leading events of more than 50, 60 injured and ill men and women, from combat-related injuries to illnesses. Everything started to change. My physical health got better because I was finally willing to seek treatments. My mental health got better because my pain levels were down, and I was actually in therapy talking about my anger and my resentment and all this stuff that kind of lingered around from my injuries. As a result, I was open to life's opportunities, and I even, at that point, met the love of my life, Claire.
My first impression of Joe was just he was super friendly, not shy at all, a little wild. It's so hard for us to believe that we've only been together for not even 4 years.
I just remember your eyes when we first met. You have the most beautiful smile I've ever seen, and it just radiates and fills a room. So,
and I feel like I can't smile.
It was almost like the icing and the cake and the box the cake comes in and the baker and everything wrapped into one.
I definitely look up to Joe and everything that he's accomplished and everything that he's been through, and I think it's absolutely amazing.
Some days I feel like I could go back to my old life and continue kicking ass, and then the next day I can't even tie my shoes. I do have a lot of physical limitations now. My doctor says I have the spinal cord of an 80-something-year-old, and it's kind of a joke sometimes, and then sometimes it's a real kick in the teeth for me to realize that if my wife and I have a child, excuse me, that I worry about not being able to be the father I want to be, or So yeah, I mean, it's maybe it's a bravado thing, being a man. You worry about not doing what you want to do, but
It's absolutely amazing how he just stays so positive, and how he really has made it his life's work to help others. Really inspiring.
For the first time in a long time, I'm living well, and I've got somebody to share that road with. So I'm open to the future and to whatever it holds. I'm not as afraid of the loss of my career, I guess, whereas maybe in years past I've put every ounce of my being into my career defining who I am. Now maybe I can see life past my career and with less fear and more excitement.
Last week, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau gave an historic speech in the House of Commons. He apologized on behalf of the federal government and all Canadians to members of the LGBTQ community who were fired because of their identity.
Besides the apology, more than $100 million will be paid to members of the military, the RCMP, and other federal public servants whose careers were destroyed by systematic discrimination.
Despite the government's hope that this apology will mark a turning point in Canadian society, Trudeau himself admitted there is still a lot more work to be done.
In this week's commentary, the 25th Hour's Lauren Sproul shares her thoughts on the matter and where to go from here.
When I first heard that Prime Minister Justin Trudeau would be making a formal apology to the members of the LGBTQ community, I thought, seriously, we haven't done this already? And then I thought about the fact that he's marched in pretty much every single Pride parade across this country since becoming Prime Minister. And I was like, hold up. That's kind of like burning your neighbor's house down, not apologizing, and then showing up to the housewarming party and asking if you can jump in the hot tub. But that's beside the point. I do think the speech he made in the House of Commons was very moving, and I give the Liberal Party kudos for tabling a bill that will expunge the criminal records of those charged with homosexuality back when it was a criminal offense. But these are retroactive gestures. I want to know what's going to be done moving forward. Now, I should say, I do not identify as a member of the LGBTQ community, but I know and love many people who do. So while it's not my place as a heterosexual to say whether or not the apology should be accepted, it is my place as a Canadian to say where we're dropping the ball as a country. That being said, let's talk about healthcare. Last year, the HIV prevention drug Truvada was approved by Health Canada. This is a drug that has been proven to be 90% effective if taken daily. That can make a huge difference to the 75 plus Canadians who are dealing with HIV every single day. Without coverage, it can cost $1,200 a month. Did I mention that there are 75,000 plus Canadians suffering from HIV? 75,000. That's the population of Moncton, New Brunswick. Or how about the fact that conversion therapy for minors is still perfectly legal in every province and territory except for Manitoba and Ontario? Or how about we should just look at the fact that transgender identity is still classified as an illness nationwide? You've got plenty of choices, Government of Canada. Pick one, pick any, pick all of them. Now, I know that Dreamboat Trudeau has built up a bit of a reputation for making a lot of promises that he just doesn't keep. Case in point, the Keystone Pipeline, balancing the budget, electoral reform. But he did say there was a lot of work to be done. And he's right, and I believe him, and I'm rooting for him. I really am. On behalf of all the people I love who have ever felt shame for being who they are, I really hope he doesn't let us down. So, there you go, Prime Minister Trudeau. You want a turning point? Now's your chance to prove it.
Thanks, Lauren. I think we can all agree there's a lot of work to be done. This next story focuses on another campaign to right historical wrongs. For decades, our government seemed intent on stripping Indigenous peoples from their cultures. They weren't allowed to speak their languages, learn their stories, or cook traditional foods. Says in Nottoway, an Algonquin woman wants to find ways to decolonize food and help reconnect her people with their culinary roots.
Get it from me? Yes, my mom is gonna
take my dog. So the redder one right here, I believe this one is the deer, and the browner one is the meat, the moose. And the moose we caught this summer. My name is Cezanne Nottoway. My government name is Marie Cecile. This to be smaller. My first language was Algonquin and English. Like the first words that I knew how to say in English to my cousin, who was like, he was half French, half Algonquin, was cook me. And I was like, cook me, but I wanted to say cook for me, and he would always open the oven and say, well, jump in then. I'm like, huh? You know, I didn't understand what he was joking with me. Tasted, but please don't judge me. Algonquin cuisine is super simple. It's not complicated. Like, you know, we're not gonna have thyme. We're not gonna have rosemary. I mean, I do use it, but that's the modern part of my cooking. It's up to you how much tea you braised moose, it's straight up meat, onions, tea, like black tea, salt and pepper. That's all it is. My husband, he dabbled into drug dealing. I supported him. It was marijuana. We got busted, and it was just a crazy, crazy night, you know. From that moment on, when my husband got taken away for the day to go to jail, I was like, you know what, I cannot live this way anymore. He came back, I told him, like, love, like, you gotta choose. I can't support you anymore, and this is, you know, you gotta choose your family or this. And if it takes you a second to even think about it, I know where I stand. So anyways, he
He's like, well, there, love. Obviously, you guys, okay, good. That's all I need to know. You're going to go back to school. He eventually went back to school. He started college, university, and now he's in med school. Yeah, so I just needed to share that with you because I love sharing our stories together, you know, because I don't want to brag, but I'm going to toot my own horn. We're pretty successful. I got my diploma, so I was like, you know, this is cool. Like, what am I going to do now? I still didn't know I was going to own a catering business, so I just worked in restaurants, and I ended up scoring this wonderful job at a rehab center for First Nations, Métis, and Inuit. And I felt like, well, what can I do? For me, like, I worked with food, so in that, it's like, you know, to feel better, you have to eat better. So that's kind of how I started, kind of, you know, going back to my roots and kind of moving forward. 10 years ago, I don't know, like, people rarely knew about Algonquins or even First Nations, you know. So now it's like this time where we're kind of rising, and some people are rising like politically, and then you have artistically. That's my way of kind of coming out, like, I'm First Nations, I'm here, and I'm cooking, and I'm feeding, and I'm sharing.
Kwekakina, Mina Pamadzoan. Hello, everyone. I hope you're all living your life in a good way.
Our trail is using in our book do actually derive from First Nations foods. We know that, for example, some of the
people ask me, you know, you always say that, you know, Mina Pamadzoan, are you living your life in a good way? And that was how we greeted each other. To live your life in a good way, about being good to the earth, about sharing with your fellow man, about loving the land. Everything the Creator provided for us to eat, to live our life in a good way. And when you live that life in that good way, you care about your fellow man, you want to feed them, because that's what we do when we welcome people into our home, we feed them.
It's great to see events like this happening on university campuses, especially given the amount of education that still needs to take place.
Yeah, and sometimes we can learn from people who take an unconventional approach, like Dr. Mordo. He hangs out at Comic-Con, a series of events that brings comic book characters, superheroes, and villains to life.
Scott McClelland is the creator and actor behind Dr. Mordo. He says that Comic-Con is not only a break from reality, but also a place where you can connect with people from all walks of life to celebrate these larger-than-life characters.
It's not wah ha ha, or like they write, or mwah ha ha. It's not he he he. It's not hoo hoo hoo. He doesn't know what he's doing. Well, Dr. Rigor Mordo is a character that I created in 1981 that is the world's most evil villain. He is, well, he believes he is, at least. He's not really that evil. My biggest inspiration for doing this type of work is a show that actually was filmed in Hamilton, Ontario back in 1973 called The Hilarious House of Frightenstein. I also really enjoyed, when I was a kid, The Munsters, and I also enjoyed The Addams Family. And watching those shows really got me thinking that that's the kind of world I wanted to play in. The interesting thing about the Comic-Con is the fact that it is a place where fans of different genres congregate. Now, they are lovers of comic books, they're lovers of gaming, they're lovers of anime, they're lovers of science fiction and fantasy. They're lovers of so many different types of worlds that we create in our fictitious, storytelling world. More laughter! It's important for me to be there because we're trying to propagate something special and new. And I'm not cosplaying. You see, I am the actual actor that plays the character. So you see, as they walk around and they enjoy being things like, oh, Princess Leia. Don't look at my nose! What are you talking about my nose for? It gives people the opportunity to enjoy fantasy. And we really need an escape in this day and age.
Is it dead yet? Go! There we go!
Right, the big superhero movies, the fantasy epics, the big sci-fi blockbusters. Right, part of the growth of those things has been the kind of the buzz and the energy that is created by fan communities in these sorts of events. Right, so we could say maybe the popularity of these events is growing the audience that then wants to engage in things like Comic-Cons. On the other hand, the Comic-Cons are creating the fan communities that get excited about these events, these films, and make them into the big successes that they've been. So I think the causality goes both directions.
Why do I cosplay? Because I like it, it makes me feel good, and I like to get out of my own character every once in a while.
I've always enjoyed making things, and it gives me an outlet to really try a lot of new things.
And then when I learned that they raise money for CHIO or any other children's charity, I just had to get involved.
Now as an adult, what I do it for is to see the face of kids light up when they see me in character. It's awesome. To them, you are that character.
When you're going to the Comic-Con, it's like a comfort food. You're getting that fix. You're being around people that like the same kind of thing as you like. So you kind of let your guard down a bit and you have fun. You note that most people are kind of like so over the top geeky that you can be yourself. And how wonderful is that? You know, how freeing is that for so many people? They're not actors. They're not real entertainers. They're people that are passionate about these characters that they love. And that makes me even happier, you know, because as an actor that plays characters, it's nice when people glom on to, you know, the character that you portray.
Wow, what an interesting character. Don't you wish we could hang out with him for a little bit longer?
Yeah, definitely. But unfortunately, we're out of time, so we have to say goodbye.
This is also our farewell for this year. Starting in January, there will be a new batch of students bringing you visual stories about people and issues that matter to our community.
We hope you've enjoyed the stories we've shared about the people who are making a difference in the nation's capital. Thank you for joining us on the 25th Hour. Your new day starts now.